Hello, dear learner. I welcome you to the lecture 1 of week 10. And the topic of today's lecture is ecological citizenship. It is in continuation of what we have studied in week 9, that is eco democracy. So, first of all, we will study, we will have a brief overview of the concepts to be covered in today's lecture. The first is what we mean by the notion of citizenship. What are the different types of citizenship? What is the meaning of ecology? And finally, what we mean by the term ecological citizenship. Because in week 10, in all our lectures, we will be talking in depth about the various features of ecological citizenship. So, to begin with, first of all, we will understand what we mean by the notion of citizenship. Now, the notion of citizenship has been associated or it has grown with the emergence of modern nation state, with the emergence of the concept of sovereignty, and with the notion of territoriality. And it has multiple meanings, as I have already said, that like any other concepts of social sciences, now this notion is also a contested concept and it is also having multiple meanings and dimensions. But basically, if you talk in terms of tradition, then we can say that it can be understood in two ways, or there are two perspectives of understanding the notion of citizenship. First is the state centered notion, and the second is the democratic or non state centered notion or perspective. Now, as it is very clear from the name itself, that is the state centered perspective, it is a traditional understanding of the notion of citizenship, which we all, as citizens of some country or other, understand by it. And it includes being the membership of any particular state. It confers a legal status on the members or the citizens who are the members of the state. And it also defines the relationship between the citizens and the state, and what are the rights and obligations of the individual towards the states and vice versa. Now, as I have just mentioned, that it also confers a legal status to the individual, because being a citizen means holding a legal status, enjoying certain rights, enjoying certain privileges, and also certain duties towards my country. So, this is the traditional or state centered perspective. Now, there is another important perspective which is also very closely related with the state centered perspective, and it is the democratic citizenship. It is a type of citizenship which is defined by virtue of shared membership of a political community. Now, we all are member of a political community. Besides being formal member of the state, we are also member of a political community in the sense that we share certain political ideas, we hold certain discussions, debates and deliberations over matters of common interest. So, there is a public sphere where we undergo all these exercises. And this public sphere or political sphere is shared commonly by all the citizens, all the members of a political community. So, the citizens are conceived as political actors who are deliberating in political spaces. So, you can say that it is another dimension of the traditional meaning of citizenship, where we have already studied when we were talking about Habermas' notion of bourgeois public sphere. In that, we have explained that how the public sphere is a space where all the citizens can deliberate on issues which are common to their interest, and based on the principle of rationality, they can arrive at certain consensual decisions. So, therefore, for a democracy, that this notion of public sphere is very important for the participation of citizens in the various political deliberations and discussions. Now, the state centric notion of citizenship has originated since the French Revolution and the rise of nation states. Because with the concept of state came the notion of territory, boundaries, and from the notion of a fixed boundary came the notion of the membership of the people who are residing within that boundary. And associated with the notion of state came the notion of sovereignty. We know that it is of two types. One is the internal sovereignty and second is the external sovereignty. And along with came the associated notion of nation, the nationalism, and finally the concept of nation state. So therefore, the origin of the notion of citizenship is closely associated with the rise of the notion of nation state and which is associated with the emergence of French Revolution or aftermath of the French Revolution. Now, this meaning of citizenship as rule and rights of the people has undergone many changes and transformations with the passage of time, and especially influenced by the changes in the society-state relationship. Now, you know that with the passage of time and with the development of science and technology, with new and modern methods of development, arose new needs, new challenges, and also new opportunities. And it helped in redefining the relationship between the society and the state. And that in a way has also influenced what shall be the role of the citizens. Who is a citizen? What are his rights and obligations towards the state? And what obligations or what duties state have towards the protection of the rights and privileges of the citizens. So therefore, the meaning of citizenship is not constant. It has transformed with the passage of time, influenced by so many factors, and we will see shortly that how we have so many different understanding and shades of the meaning of the notion of citizenship. Now, before we proceed further, we must know that if we have the citizenship of a country, what does that mean? Or what actually the notion of citizenship confers on the individual? The first point is that it provides the membership status to the individuals within a state. Now, this point we have already discussed or we have been discussing that the first important advantage or the aspect of the notion of citizenship is that it confers a membership status to the individual who is a member of a state. It provides an identity to the citizens or to the individuals, because we know that since we all are part of India, so we are being recognized as Indians. So when we go abroad, we are being recognized and our identity is of an Indian. So we get an identity which is conferred to us because of our citizenship of a particular state. So it is one of the multiple identities that every citizen possesses as he is a member of a state. Third is, it entails a set of rights and duties. You can be member of any state. An individual can be citizen of any state, but it's not the state which is important, but it is his membership of a state which confers on him certain rights as well as responsibilities. And that is irrespective of the state to which he or she belongs. So he enjoys certain rights which are protected by the state. And in return, all the citizens have certain responsibilities and duties or obligation towards the state. And the fourth important is, I have talked especially about the Republican tradition. Now, about the Republican tradition, we will also study in this course in some other lecture, but here I would like to mention the Republican notion of citizenship in the context of the civic virtues which they have always emphasized upon. They say that when we are talking about the notion of citizenship, it is not simply an abstract concept, but it also means incorporation of certain values, certain ethics, certain virtues like honesty, sense of responsibility, obedience to laws, then performance of duties as per the laws of the state, and so many other values or norms which constitute an ideal citizens. Because it is ultimately the citizens who make or unmake a state. The health and strength of a nation is determined by the quality of its citizens. So therefore, incorporation of civic values is extremely important to have a very strong and robust state. When we come to the liberal notion, we know that they talk about the rights and autonomy of the individual. Because the liberal state has been basically a night watchman state, which has come into existence to protect the rights and liberties of the individual. So therefore, the state has been conceived in a negative fashion, that it will not interfere in any of the activities of the individual. So therefore, the citizens are supposed to enjoy autonomy and freedom, which will be protected by the state. So therefore, for the liberals, the notion of citizenship brings with it freedom, rights and autonomy. Then the liberals also gives importance to the need for the processes of deliberation, then debates and discussion to resolve any conflict or to resolve any issue and come to a consensus through the process of deliberation. So consensus building is the ultimate objective and the citizens will participate in it actively and deliberate upon through a mutual, a consensual manner and arrive at certain common agreement. Now there is another important discourse which is also the title of our paper, that is the critical tradition or the critical discourse. It challenges the conventional understanding of citizenship, whether it is a republican notion or whether it is a liberal notion. They have challenged it and they have come forward with their own understanding, with their own notions or interpretation of the concept of citizenship. Here I would like to highlight upon three important issues which the critical discourse emphasizes upon. The first is the critical notion raises questions about identity. Identity means who we are as citizens. Are we abstract citizens, abstract individuals in possession of certain rights, or we are having a certain identity which should be recognized when we are talking ourselves as citizens. For example, whether we are male or female, or we belong to a particular caste group, or whether we belong to a particular community or ethnicity, etc. So identity, who we are as citizens, is also important because that also determines to a large extent how we are going to enact or enjoy our role as citizens. Second important is membership, that is who belongs and the location of the boundaries. Who are the members? Who are the citizens? Who can be the citizens? You know that in the ancient times, many of the sections of the community, like slaves and women, they were not members or considered to be the citizens of the Greek city state. Similarly, you know that for a long period of time, even few years back also, in many countries, the women did not enjoy the right to vote, or they did not have the political rights. So we know that the concept of citizenship is important because who are the members and the location of the boundaries. Location of the boundaries means that we are citizen of a state, or we are having the global citizenship, or we are having the citizenship of the entire ecosystem. And the third important element is agency. Agency means the capacity to take decisions, the capacity of the individual, by which we mean how best we can enact our role as citizens. We are citizens, but if we don't have the capabilities and the potentialities to act and fulfill our role as citizens, then it is of not much value. So therefore, three important parameters have been identified by the critical discourse. One is the identity, and second is the membership, and third is the role of agency. Now, these notions or the varied notions of citizenship have added some or other dimension to the notion of citizenship to make it much wider, comprehensive and expansive in nature. Now, I would like to mention T.H. Marshall's model of citizenship, because generally when we are talking about citizenship, we must know that it is not simply the membership of state, but it also includes multiple dimensions or aspects of the citizenship. The first is the civil citizenship. Now, what we mean by the notion of civil citizenship? It emerged in the 18th century on the basis of civil rights. It is concerned with the protection of civil rights, and with it is associated the notion of the civil citizenship, and it originated in 18th century. Then political citizenship, where the citizens started getting their political rights, right to vote, then right to political participation, right to contest election. And this could happen in the 19th century, because after the struggle for political rights and freedom, these were recognized in the constitution of various countries, and that enhanced or it made wider the notion of citizenship. And the third was the 20th century development, when we were talking about social economic rights. And that widened the notion of citizenship to include another dimension, and that was the social dimension of citizenship. So these are the three, broad aspects of citizenship which has been underlined by T.H. Marshall. Now I come to the meaning of the word ecology, because up till now we have studied the meaning of citizenship, then what are the different understanding of citizenship, what are the different types of citizenship in short or in brief. Since we have to study the notion of ecological citizenship, after we have understood the meaning of the term citizenship, now I come to the word ecology. Now, since we have already studied the notion of the ecological democracy in our 9th week, so I hope that you are already familiar with this term. Ecology, I would like to again explain that it is defined as the science of relations between organisms and their environment or their ecology. It is a science. Science, it means that it provides a rational understanding of the relationship between the human beings or the organism and their environment, and that organism includes both human and non-human world. Now, the term ecology was coined by a German biologist in the year 1866, and his name was Ernst Haeckel. Now, Arnes, a noted scholar on ecology, makes a distinction between deep ecology and shallow ecology. Because in our earlier lectures, we have discussed about ecology, but we have not understood the difference between deep ecology and shallow ecology, because that is important to understand various differences between the concepts which are used with reference to environmentalism. So, deep ecology refers to non-anthropocentric perspective, where everything in nature, including human beings, has equal standing. Very, very important point to understand ecological citizenship. When we are talking about deep ecology, because deep ecology constitutes the foundational basis of ecological citizenship. Here, our basic framework or our basic perspective to look around the world is through a non-anthropocentric perspective, where human beings, along with all other components, all other species of the ecosystem, are considered equal, where human beings are not considered superior or at the top of the hierarchy, but in a state of interdependence with other beings in the ecosystem. Now, the next type of ecology is shallow ecology. Now, shallow ecology, as the name suggests, refers to anthropocentric environmentalism, where human beings are considered superior than other components of nature. Because you may raise a question that why we are actually calling it ecology when it is anthropocentric in nature. The answer to this question will be that yes, it is one of the shades of ecology or ecological perspective, but it is not so deeply committed as we find in the case of deep ecology to the causes of environmental protection. Still, it has the biases or the focus on anthropocentric perspective, and it is important to understand that it still considers human beings as superior to other beings in the ecosystem. So, the center of focus is the human beings as it was earlier, but now it is talking about environmental issues. It is extending its understanding to other beings on this earth, but of course considering human beings as the superior being or the most important being than others. Now we come to another very important thinker, Andrew Dobson, who is a very noted green political theorist. He made a distinction between environmentalism and ecologism. Green political thought was the book, or is the name of the book, in which he has explained these distinctions. He has mentioned that environmentalism is a technocratic and managerial approach to solving environmental problems. It's a managerial approach. Managerial approach means which is aimed at managing something. When you manage something, you are not aiming at changing or transformation. You are only talking about managing all the parts in such a way to achieve a desired results. It is a type of administration. And technocratic approach means here we are using the help of various technologies. We are using the means of various scientific innovations to solve the environmental problems. So, it is basically not a biotic approach or an ecological approach, but a type of a superficial approach or incremental approach which do not touch the roots of the problem. So, therefore, it believes that by making changes in the existing patterns of production and distribution, problems can be solved. So, it is talking about changes or transformation in an incremental manner. It is talking about reforming not changing, not uprooting the present structure and processes of production. So that's a very vital difference. It does not show a deep commitment to ecological issues. It shows only one of the commitments which we have amongst others. So therefore, the priority is not environmental issues. So therefore, ecologism is a sustainable perspective that calls for making radical changes in our social, economic and political lives and transforming our relationship with the non-human natural world. So, it is having a very clear-cut perspective what it wants. The ecological approach, it talks about making radical changes in our social, economic and political structure. It is not talking about incremental changes. And then it is also talking about transforming the present patterns of relationship of human beings with the non-human world. Now, after understanding the meaning of ecology and the important differences between environmentalism and the ecological perspective, now let us try to understand what we mean by the notion of eco-citizenship. Eco-citizenship defines citizenship as that which encourages individual communities and organizations to consider them as citizens of the ecosystem with certain environmental rights and responsibilities. See how the notion of the citizenship is expanding in the case of eco-citizenship. Here we are incorporating individuals, communities and also organizations to see themselves as member not of state but of the larger ecosystem and thinking of rights and responsibilities in terms of our environmental concern. So we can say that in other words, ecological citizenship is an extension of the traditional understanding of global citizenship, which says that individual rights and responsibilities they extend beyond the state, where at the global level individuals work together for attaining certain common goods, having certain rights and responsibilities at the global level. And the ecological citizenship is also global in nature, but it extends beyond, and that extension perhaps is what makes it so unique and distinct from all other forms of citizenship, about which we will study in much more detail the other unique features of ecological citizenship. So with that, I come to the end of lecture 1, followed by certain activity questions which are based on the topic and concepts which have been covered in today's lecture. First is, define the notion of citizenship and its important elements. What are the different types of citizenship? What is ecology? What are its types? Explain the difference between environmentalism and ecologism. Followed by, there is only one question which is aimed at steering your imagination to make you think, and the question is, imagine how your rights and responsibilities will change when your citizenship extends beyond your state to ecosystem. So this is totally an imaginative question where you will think that from tomorrow or from now itself, you are not only the citizen of your own country, but also you are the citizen of the entire ecosystem. As part of this citizenship, what are your duties and responsibilities? So I want you to think about it and answer it. So with that, I come to the end of this lecture. Hope you have enjoyed it and thank you very much.